Hello, and welcome to another exciting episode of Breakfast with Unity. I'm your host, Matt, and we're going to be doing some world space texturing here. So first off, we're going to be using some built-in shaders as a base to work off of here, or at least potentially. So what I want to mention is these can be downloaded. These are already in the project. If you download the project file, these are already in there and they're up to date. But if you need to find them yourself, just search for Unity built-in shaders. And you'll find this page that says Unity Download Archive. And this has all of the releases of Unity, but it also has the downloads for the built-in shaders, so you can get the source code for the built-in shaders. If you include them in your project, keep in mind that if you make any changes to them, these will be used instead of the ones that are actually built in. So these will override the ones that are built in. So if you do add these to a project, I recommend not changing them, because you might run into situations where you're like, why is this not working when everyone says it should be working, and it's just because you changed the shader a long time ago and didn't realize it. So what we're going to be doing is world space texture mapping, which means, so if I create a cube right now, and we put some sort of texture on it, I'm just going to grab something we've already used. I'm just going to grab this window from Fun with Built-in Shaders, I think. And I'm just going to actually... let's duplicate this and put it into our project. So we got this window one. And if we were to put this on example texture, if we were to put this on our cube, it'll automatically create a material for it, and we'll see that we have this nice little cube thing. And I'm going to go ahead and make this not bilinear. I'm going to make it point so it'll look a little more Minecrafty. And if we scale this, you'll see that it stretches out the cube. You'll see that the cube stretches, the texture map stretches when we stretch it out. And so if you wanted to make, say, two cubes, let's say we duplicate this cube, and we made a cube that's 2 by 2 by 2. And we wanted to make it, let's make this cube so that it actually looks like it's 4 of these cubes stacked together. The way we would do that is we would change the tiling. Now, if we change the tiling, you'll notice that this now looks right, but now this cube also has changed. And the reason being is the tiling is part of the shader, the material, and the material is being shared between these two objects. These two objects might batch. I'm not sure if they'll batch, actually, because of scaling issues, but... Save by batching 0, yeah. So they're not batching. I'm curious, if we make them non-uniform... I'm just curious about something. Sorry. Sidetracking. 0.99, sure, why not? Oops. I've heard it mentioned that being non-uniform actually ends up fixing things. I'm not sure if this is actually true. I just want to see for myself. Stats, save by batching 1. Alright, so it does actually matter. So, wow, that's funny. So, uniform scales are not that great. But even though I really like them. So, the thing is, we can get this batching by tweaking it a little bit. But they have to have the same amount of tiling. And so, that kind of limits what you want to do. Now, world space texturing, instead of using the UV coordinates, which are actually what are telling where to put the texture on this thing, we use the world space position to determine what to texture map. And so what'll happen is if you stretch something, it will start tiling more. And we're going to go ahead and get that set up right now. So first of all, I'm going to grab, just for a base, we're going to go into built-in shaders, and I'm going to grab, what do we want? Oh, so built-in shaders, this is what's in there. CG includes default resources, extra. The extra is actually what contains most of the ones that you're looking for, probably. So I don't know why it's an extra, but it is. So normal diffuse is actually what we want. I'm going to duplicate it, save all, and I'm going to move it up to here. And what we're going to do is, I'm going to go ahead and delete this. We don't need it anymore. We're going to rename this one to normal diffuse world space. And I'm going to double click it and we're going to edit it. And I'm going to get rid of this thing. So, so what this is going to do is we're going to basically change this so that, first of all, I'm going to do this before I forget. I'm going to do diffuse world space so we don't have the potential of this just replacing itself a bunch of times. So I'm just doing some reorganization here for my own edification. So what we're going to be changing here is right now we're using the input data of the UV main texture to determine what we're going to be doing here. Instead, we're going to be using something regarding world space. So we're going to be doing some copy pasta. Radiator blog here had a really good... I actually went through this morning, actually, and I was originally going to use this one as an example because it was a good basic example, but it didn't quite work right. And also, I had some questions with what they were doing here, though I admittedly don't know that much about shaders. I'm still learning myself. I mean, you have to start somewhere. But this one seemed to work for me when I was actually playing around with it. And he does things a little bit more complicated than we're going to do. He actually has it so it's set up to 3 separate textures and then a scale for those textures. We're going to support the scale, I think, but I'm just going to do a single texture instead. So I'm just going to go ahead, though, and copy his core here and put it into our surface shader. And we'll tab this out so it looks a little bit nicer. Let's go ahead and do the full Monty so that this is readable. Oops. Boop, boop. And I missed one. Bam. Alright, so, oh wait, that's not one I missed. I just, it's this one. There you go. So, so here we have it. So this probably won't compile because it's going to have a couple of things that we don't have here. So I'm going to change it so that it uses main text for all 3 of these. We need the scale, so I'm going to declare scale up here. We'll go ahead and copy his declaration for it. So, scale, and that means we also have to declare it down here, so we're going to do float scale. And then his input thing is probably different too. So, where is his input? Yeah, he has world normal and world position. So this input structure is kind of interesting. So this is what gets sent into your shader. And you can define what gets put in here by declaring them by specific names. Let me see if I can find where this is. Unity shader properties. Shader properties. I don't know if this is the right one. Texture properties, no. Let's try input. Shader input properties. Shader properties. That's the same one we just did, isn't it? Right, surface shaders. Is this it? Okay, here we go. Surface shader input structure. So this shows the keywords that you can use to get additional information in the input structure. In this case, we're using originally we're using UV main text, which is described here. Texture coordinate is supposed to be named UV followed by the texture name, and it actually should be UV underscore followed by the texture name. And then at least I assume that you need the underscore there. But we're not even going to be using UV main text. Yeah, we don't even need this. But we are going to be using the other 2 here, the world normal and world position. Why do we need both, actually? World normal, world position. All right, well, it's because, oh yeah, they do use it. So what they're doing here is they're checking the world normal. And the reason they're checking this is to determine whether it should be tiling based on the YZ position, the XY position, or the XZ position. And so this makes it so that that it tiles the right direction depending on which direction the plane is traveling. So this should work, hopefully. So all this is doing is basically determining the direction of the object compared to the world, or the direction of the surface compared to the world, and then applying the UVs based on the world position. That's all it is doing. Pretty simple. So if we now create a shader that uses this, one fast way you can do that is if you have it selected and you choose shader, create shader, it will automatically. Oh wait, that's not what we want. I wanted material. Sorry, I get those words mixed up a lot. Create material. It'll automatically name it as this name and automatically set it to the shader. If you want to manually set it, it's just in this list, diffuse world space. Remember, that's how we named it at the top of the file. So we're going to now just call this world space material, and we're going to put this texture map on it, and we're going to create a cube and place this world space material on it. And it doesn't look like it worked. Oh, and I think I know why. Maybe. Is this clamped? No, it says set to repeat. Uh-oh. What did we do wrong? Oh, the scale defaults to 0.1. 1.0. That's a stupid default. So if we go back to the cube here and we change the scale to 1, there we go. So now you'll see that it's not at the corners like we might want, and the reason is because it's using world space. So 0, 0 is the origin of this whole thing. So if we were to move this over, I'm just going to hold Command and drag it so that it snaps. We could, oh wait, that's not true. It's snapping too much. There we go. So we go up there. There we go, and one more. There we go. So you can see now that we have this cube on there, and you can see that as we move it, it works like that. That's just kind of how it does. So if you have moving geometry, this is not an appropriate texture for it. This is mostly for static geometry, and mostly for when you're just setting things up in Unity and stuff. But it's useful because we can just now do this, and we have. Whoops. Why does 2 look? Oh yeah, it's because it's scaling from the center. Okay, let's go ahead. Well, it doesn't matter. It shows what's going on. So we can scale this out, and it will scale out and have additional texture points at each point. And so all of a sudden, you kind of can create things a lot faster. You can share materials between objects and have them have effectively different tiling components. But what they are actually is the same tiling. It's just you're using world space rather than the UVs. So if you wanted to make it so this actually scaled exactly the way we wanted it to, we could create one more empty object at 0, 0, 0, and we can just put the cube inside of it. And because of the cube's position, it's offset 0.5 in the X and 0.5 in the Y and 0.5 in the Z. This will now, if we scale it, scale exactly the way we want. So if we just do 2 by 2, we'll get a 2 by 2 cube. And if we do another 2 here, we get another 4 by 4. And so now we can literally just duplicate this, and we can have one that's not scaled. And we have exactly the scenario we were talking about before. Of course, it has to be set at intervals, which if you're prototyping, that's actually not necessarily a bad thing. It allows you to. This is really good for white box textures and prototype textures. And this is part of the reason I'm making it today is because I need some white box textures and prototype textures. So I figured I'd do this on the show. So yeah, and these should batch. They probably won't batch right now because they're uniform scale. Yeah, but if we were to de-uniformize them, which is silly, but evidently is a thing. Theoretically, these should batch. Yep, they did. Yay, save my batching. Gonna create a 3D light in the scene, just so that it doesn't look terrible in play mode. And just hit play. Camera's just pointing from the front, so whatever. Just move this cube a little bit. This kind of looks cool when you could move things with world space texture wrapping too. It's just it looks trippy, and trippy is sometimes fun. Like you can work with trippy, but yeah, we'll just do that. There we go. Now we can see both of them in play mode. just in case someone cares. So, anyway, that's how you do world space texturing in Unity. You just copy pasta it from somewhere else. But seriously, like a lot of times when you're learning this stuff, that's what you're going to be doing is just finding good examples. And sometimes you have to go through several. As I said before earlier, I did actually try to do this using this one, but it wasn't set up exactly right. It worked for two of the directions. And if I added the third one, it didn't work. So I think this world normal vector calculation isn't quite what he wanted. This one doesn't use that calculation. It instead uses just the world normal as part of the input structure. I'm not sure which is faster. I would imagine this is probably the better way to go, but I'm not quite sure. Shaders are not my strongest suit. So anyway, thank you very much for joining us. I'm going to save this as world space texture shader. Yeah, why not? Just all of it. And save scene, save project. Thank you very much for joining us tonight, or this morning, tonight, or tonight if it's tonight. It probably is tonight somewhere. It's tea time somewhere. So, thank you very much for watching Breakfast with Unity. If you have any questions, please email me, pushypixels@pushypixels.com. You can also tweet me at Drakfire. That's DRAKFYRE. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoy the show, please support us on Patreon, patreon.com/cookingwithunity. We really appreciate the support. And I'll catch you guys tonight. We may be doing some special stuff for the VOG Jam tonight, because that thing ends in a week, and we haven't started. And we have a really good idea for what we want to do, and it's kind of tricky, so we're going to probably be spending a few days on this. So we might be doing extra broadcasting in the next few days. So, thank you very much, and I'll catch you tonight with some Cooking with Unity VOG Jam stuff, and I'll catch you tomorrow with more Breakfast with Unity. See ya!